Hello, good day everyone. It is a privilege to be in your space once more. Today we will be looking at a different project. Prior now we've worked on using ProjectLibre to analyze programs. So on this one we'll be working on a simpler project, which is a 3-bedroom duplex, and we're using the UK as our standard, please. So this is a simulation project to help you have an understanding on the use of ProjectLibre, and I've created a comprehensive slide to highlight some of the areas that you need to consider in the course of managing a project. So let's proceed with this today. So for you to be able to create a project, you need a living document called the project chapter. On the project chapter, you are expected to have your executive summary, the project objective, the scope statement, the deliverables, the key milestones, the budget summary, the project schedule summary, and the RECI matrix. And included on that same document is the resource plan, risk and constraints, governance and communication plan, approval signature. So these documents are very important in the compilation of your project chapter. After that has been done in your initiation stage, we can go to the other supporting documents that the project manager needs to manage. These supporting documents are the planning and design. So we've looked at the project initiation document, which we've looked previously at project initiation document. In it we have the project chapter, and the other document that we'll be looking at is planning and design, health, safety and environment, financial management, control, legal and compliance, handover and closeout, communication and stakeholder management. These are other supporting documents that you as a project manager will have to manage in the course of executing this construction project in an organized system. So I've got a brief here on the slide that shows us the floor plan and the pictorial view of the end project. This was generated using an AI for Gemini or ChatGPT. You can use those. Basic design and cost estimates. On this aspect, you'll be looking at breaking down of the project itself into a word breakdown structure and costing this project in terms of the resources that are needed on the project, the other things in terms of manpower, materials, and services that are needed to accomplish the project. So this is a quick costing, a breakdown of the costing, and as you can see on the breakdown of this costing, we are looking at substructure, that is the foundation and slab works. We are looking at the superstructure. This has to do with the walls and roof. We are looking at the roofing. This has to do with tiles of the roofing and installation. We're looking at the window costs and doors, plumbing, sanitary, electrical and lighting, finishing, external works, and professional fees. We should not forget to also consider our contingency for our project. So this contingency, it varies depending on who is planning the project and the agreement that he or she has got with the sponsor of that project. Looking at another document, which is our work breakdown structure. Our work breakdown structure, as I said, is dividing the project into indivisible tasks that can be accomplished sequentially to meet up with the demand of that project. So these are some of the tasks that we will be carrying out on the project, which is site survey and soil tests, architectural design and drawings. We'll be doing planning and building permits, project management setup, insurance and risk management. We'll be doing site preparation, make sure the site is cleared, excavation work and fencing of the perimeter of that site. We'll be carrying out superstructure and foundation works, which has to do with making sure that the depth of the footings as required by the standard are met. Slabs, damp proofing, all these are done within the acceptable standard as specified. From there, we'll be moving to the substructure, which has to do with walls and beams and columns of that structure. And we'll be looking at the roofing. Roofing has to do with timber truss, woods that are needed for the roofing, the tile covering, insulations, to make sure that the property is well insulated in terms of when it gets very cold, the property will not escape the heat that is generated by the radiator or any means of generating heat within the structure. And the next on the list is our windows and doors. And we'll move to that other section of the work breakdown structure, which is electrical works. Plumbing and sanitary works, that is pipe work, toilets and basins, drainage. We'll be working on the next part of the work breakdown structure, which is internal finishes. It has to do with the painting, tiling and flooring of the building. And these are the costs of these activities. And we also have our external works, which is the driveway, landscaping and fencing of the structure. On the next part of our work breakdown structure, we'll be looking at testing and commissioning. That is when you invite the quality personnel to come on your site to do the necessary testing and quality check. When they finish the vetting, they can state where they need maintenance and all that to be done in terms of the fire alarm inspections and MEE system inspections. So when this test is completed, we will know where there is an issue. These issues will be pointed out to the site manager. And final handover and snagging. So quality controls, repair and cleaning. So the snagging section is towards the finishing of the project. That is the major part in terms of execution of this project, because you want to make the client, the customer happy. You need to do a proper quality check. Then we have our professional fee, 10%, contingency 5%. So this is the resource breakdown structure of these projects. It breaks down the resources in terms of the labor costs, material / equipment costs that are needed to execute this project. So on here, a simple illustration is for the site survey and soil test, we will need 1,200 pounds to carry out this task by labor, and the materials that are needed to execute it will be 5,000. In total, we'll have 1,700 pounds. So that is what these are for. So when you look down on this document, you will see variations of these values. Now moving on to these parts where we've got our detailed resource breakdown by tax. So when you say detailed resource breakdown by tax, we are talking about the labor and the type of labor by description that we need for the certain tax, and the quantity of persons that is needed to carry out this task, the units in terms of per person that is needed, and the total value. So if you look at this section, you've got labor for excavation crew when they are carrying out the groundwork. We need 3 persons to carry out this task for 150 pounds per day, and this task will be accomplished within 4 working days. And in total, by the time you times this times this value, you will have this. So we have got 15 times 150 pounds, which equates this value. You can do that calculation yourself while we are on this. So on the next section is those that does the steel work, steel fixing. We will need 2 workmen, and those 2 workmen will be charging £160 per day for 5 days. And the materials needed is concrete mix of 30 meter cube. So that value for 1 unit is £120. So these are some of the resource by type that we'll be needing on the project. So for the tax, in terms of the roofing resource area, we will need this labor. So for the roofers, we need 2, and the material, we need roofing tiles as well as trusses. And also, we should not forget to add our scaffold to help the workers get to the set heights safely. And on here, we've got our personnel by role with estimated duration and costs. So for the site manager, we are looking at £250 per day, and we are looking at the period of the project, which is 60 working days. And for the architect, we are looking at 5 working days, a structural engineer 4 working days for these values. So all these are the rows. We've got the daily rates and the estimated number of days that we expect this personnel to be on site. However, if there are variation on that, the contingency will be of importance to cater for such excesses. On here, we've got our material group summary. So for our concrete and aggregates, we are looking at £5,000. Structural steel, we are looking at £3,000. Bricks and blocks, we are looking at £4,000. Roofing material, we are looking at 2,200. And the others you can see from here. For project management and administration, project management fee. We're looking at insurance and warranties. So you need to make payments to building insurance companies, depending, and some of them including NHBC. So depending on what your sponsor wants to invest in terms of insurance and warranty, and other aspect of administration management has to do with legal fees and contracts, then contingency. I did make use of some of these, which are Google Gmail, Open Chat GPT, Google, YouTube videos, to compile this slide that I'm using for my presentation today. So looking through the work breakdown structure, we've been able to create the necessary information that with the necessary charts that we need in our ProjectLibre. Let's have a look. I just have to quickly run through that. So if we click on our resource and click on the resource section, we should be able to see a summary here. And if we click this down, divide it into planning phase, execution phase, and commissioning phase, just so we can have a well-structured resource breakdown structure, as well as well-structured work breakdown structure. So unlike before, we were not having those. Okay, so if you go back to the resource breakdown and you want to assign, we just also included this reference for accounting purpose. If we want to assign this personnel to the various tasks, all we need to do is to click on our Gantt chart. This is our work breakdown structure, and this is our resource names. So if I double click on the resource names, I should be able to come up with the personnel that I need to identify on there. And you can see I've clicked on the hide section to hide some of the other columns so that we can appreciate what I am doing on there. So let's quickly assign the resources to these various tasks. On the section where we've got tools, I will only assign them once in each of the phases, because I'm considering the fact that these tools will be used throughout that phase, so that when you're doing the budget calculation, when the system does the budget calculation, it will give an accurate value. So for the survey, we've got John Watts. Let's quickly assign that to the survey and soil testing. Okay, and let's assign the tool as well. Bear with me, let's take that one out. Okay, John Watt. So that has been assigned, and let's assign this to the total project in here. For the design and drawing section, okay, that has been assigned, and we're going to the construction phase. which is the execution phase. So for the construction phase, I will be assigning the material that is needed on there. So we need iron, okay, and the substructure areas. Let's assign the excavation crew, and on the superstructure let's assign the brick, and for the roofing so I believe we have been able to assign the necessary resources needed for this project. So let's just go through it again. So with that, I believe you have an understanding of how to assign resources to your tasks. So let's close this and let's see what we've got. So we've got our resource being assigned, and if we click on here we can see that these resources have been assigned. Okay, all of them has got. However, we've not assigned some of these resources. It's good that we check. So we will be assigning the scaffold, the reinforced steel, and concrete mix and steel. So we need to go back to the substructure. Substructure is very important. We assign those. If not, we'll be having issues. So let's click on that substructure. So let's assign, click on assign again. So click on here, assign, 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 assign. Okay. So note, if we assign those into the so that covers those activities, okay? And let's see. Yep, none is left. Scaffold is out. Let's go over there and get the roofing. The roof has some scaffold. Okay, so click on here, look for our scaffold, and you assign. Okay, so with that we have done due diligence on assigning of resources. You can see everything is all green. So now what we'll do next to get our budget is to save our baseline. So now that we've saved our baseline, yeah, you can see this gray line beneath. We'll quickly go to our work breakdown structure, so we can see we've got our budget. Unlike previously, we were not having a value. to that effect. So if we go to our resource section, you can see from our resource breakdown structure how these have been properly allocated. Okay. So one thing to note, since we put our site manager at the close of the project, it will be taking that number of days. So let's quickly correct that and go back to the resource breakdown structure and come to the sites. So instead of us to have this, we say for 16 working days. So I don't want to put the site manager in all the project because he needs to stay through the lifespan of the project. So what I want to do is to get the value and assume that the site manager is a material. It's not a good practice, but that is what I want to do. So quickly pop in a fees value for him based on contract. Okay. Okay. So that should also affect our total budget. Yeah, you can see the budget has moved. So let's go back to our baseline, save our baseline again, and that is that. So we can print out our reports and present our report to the stakeholders. Okay, so click on print report. So that is our report. Okay, let's expand that. So our project will be ending at this date. This is the tentative start date to take 160 working days. So other analysis can be done in terms of loading, spreading of resources accordingly, but this is just a quick one. Thank you very much for your patience through this training. Hope to bring other helps to yourself. Please do well to subscribe, follow me, send me your questions, your concerns, and anything you want me to teach in our future lectures. I'm very delighted to bring that to you. Thank you.